Welcome, everyone. Please feel free to take a seat if you want to, or remain standing, whatever you're most comfortable with. And welcome. My name is Kellen Klein, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of Citizens4Community. For those of you that don't know, Citizens4Community, or C4C, is a nonprofit based here in Sisters that fosters a more connected community by encouraging civility, collaboration, and civic engagement. Welcome to one of our most popular events of the year, our biannual forum. Tonight's event is called You Are Not Alone, Building Community in Sisters Country. And I'm really excited to be discussing this topic. It's one that has been described as an epidemic on a national scale and has certainly impacted Sisters Country along with the rest of our country. It is one that has been exacerbated by the pandemic, as well as a lot of other factors, the rise of anti-social media, as my colleague Scott over here likes to call it. And we're going to be talking about it a lot tonight and diving in deeper, discussing loneliness and social isolation and what the heck we can do about it. But before that, I have 10 logistical issues or things to discuss with you. So over the next 45 minutes, I will be, so first, quick show of hands. How many of you, this is your first ever C4C event? About a dozen or so. Excellent. Next time I expect there to be about double that, because I told you in our newsletter that you were supposed to bring a buddy, a friend, somebody new. So next time I'll be holding you accountable for that. All right. Let's see. I'm moving down my list here. Very important, right at the top. I want to acknowledge our sponsors, the people who have helped make this event possible. First and foremost, the Nugget newspaper, our favorite thing to read on a weekly basis. Wednesday is my favorite day of the week. Thanks to Jim Cornelius, editor-in-chief, man in the awesome cowboy hat in the back. The Nugget has been a recurring sponsor of this event. They've helped us raise awareness about the issues that we discussed. They've helped promote the event within our community. If you enjoy the Nugget, fun fact, you can actually subscribe and support their work on an ongoing basis as a sustaining subscriber. Is that the right term, Jim?
That's one of them.
Supporting, sustaining, stupendous subscriber. I encourage you to contribute to the Nugget on an ongoing basis to support their awesome work with local journalism. It's such an asset to this community. So thanks to Jim and the Nugget team. Also want to thank Melanie Nelson, a Sisters community member who unfortunately could not be here tonight, but made a generous contribution to help make this event possible. It's a topic that's very important to her. So thanks to Melanie, and shout out when you watch the recording later. And then I want to thank St. Charles Health System. St. Charles recently launched a new program focused on supporting or addressing loneliness in the greater Central Oregon region. We got a few folks from St. Charles Healthcare tonight. Where'd you go? Angela, Carlos, Chris? Both sides, they got you flanked. Okay, excellent. Well, thanks to them, I encourage you to learn more about what they're doing to address loneliness in Central Oregon. And thank you for supporting us tonight. Okay, moving to a few logistical issues. Bathrooms at the back. It's a sauna in there, my apologies. Food and beverage over there. If you don't eat it, it goes right here. So please eat it. Let's see what else. You've got some stuff on your chair. One thing is a feedback form. If you like what you hear tonight, we'd love to hear about it. If you don't like what you hear about it, show yourself out. No, I'm just kidding. We'd love to hear about it too. We always want to make these events better. So please encourage you to fill that out later, not now. You also have a note card. We're going to have some Q&A later. Oh, thank you, Vanna. We've got our Q&A that we'll be having later. Some might be more comfortable coming up to the mic at the back of the room. Some might be more comfortable writing it on a note card, and we can address it anonymously. If you would like to write something on a note card, hold it up when you're done writing at any point during the program. And we've got some folks in the back, Jim over here, who's going to come around and snag it for you. You also have a pencil, that's obvious, and I'll address the little business card shaped thing in a moment. I'm all out of order here. What am I doing? Logistics, got it. Sponsors, got it. Okay, there's also something else. This is the first time we've tried this, but we recognize that it takes a village to raise a village, and it takes work to get out of the house when you are a parent or a caregiver. And so one thing we're offering tonight is a child care reimbursement stipend for anyone that had to pay for childcare in order to be here. But I want to actually put a little adjustment on that. Thank you to Debbie McCune with Alzheimer's Association, Rotary, many other organizations. Talked to her at the back for raising this issue for me lately. But children are not the only one who require paid caregiving. You know, there's a lot of people in this community that need to be supported in that way. So if you had to pay a caregiver at all in order to be here, whether they're a child or an adult, please go check out our stipends at the back, fill one of those out, and we'll mail you a check to compensate you for their time tonight. Here's the caregivers. We're talking about. Speaking of caregivers, if there is a caregiver or someone else that made it possible for you to be here tonight, tip of the cap to them. Please go home and thank them. I'm thinking of my wife and probably many other parents in the room at this point too, who's at home watching my children, so I could be here tonight. So thank you to those people who allowed you to come. Okay. Oh, this one's important. Studies show that social isolation or being part of an outgroup is an incredible detractor to your physical health. One of the most powerful ways to become part of the outgroup is by having your phone ring during an event like this after you've been asked to turn your phone off. So I want you all to feel included tonight. So if you would now take a moment to make sure that your ringer is turned off, that would be fantastic. And we will all collectively commit that if your phone still does go off at some point, we are not going to ostracize you. We're not going to embarrass you. We know that mistakes happen. If you need help turning off your phone and learning how to silence it, raise your hand. And your neighbor or another millennial in the room can show you how to do it. Okay. All that. Okay, a couple more things. You're doing great. You're being so patient. Next one. This event is free. We never want finances or money to be a barrier to engaging in your community, to building connections, to building relationships. And so all of Citizens4Community's events are free. But that also means that we rely on generous contributions from foundations, businesses, individuals in Sisters to support our work. If you enjoyed what you experienced tonight, or at any other time, if you feel inspired to be charitable, please consider giving us a donation. We'll do a little pass the hat later. There's a donation jar over there. You can write a check. You can donate online, Venmo, credit card, PayPal, donor advised funds, stock. We take it all now. So thank you for your support. Two more things. We have a live stream going tonight. This is our first time attempting this as well. Hi, everybody on the live stream. I really hope you can hear me because I'm not monitoring the chat right now, and I will go back to you in a minute. If any of you who are in the room would like the recording of this later, you can go onto our website on the event page, and if you just register for the event, even after the fact, you will get the recording delivered to you. That is also a warning that, don't say anything that you don't want recorded tonight, okay? We're gonna have the microphone later. Two more things. I said two last time, didn't I? Oh man, I continue stretching it out. Next thing. I'm blushing now, I'm sorry. Next thing. Oh, Jane's putting up a 1 minute. Too soon, Jane, too soon. Science also shows that one of the best ways to address social isolation and foster social connection is by getting engaged in your community, such as through volunteering or joining a social club. So to support that, we have a variety of organizations at the back of the room tonight who are doing awesome work, either to address social isolation in our communities, particularly with more vulnerable populations, or offering opportunities for you to get engaged through volunteering, through regular meetups, through regular events, things like that. So I encourage you to chat with them, including my personal favorite, Wyatt, the fluffy guy on the ground back there. So, oh, okay, Wyatt's taking a nap. These folks are going to stick around after the program for about another half an hour. So if you didn't get a chance to meet them on your way in, I encourage you to do so on your way out. This is only a smattering of the organizations that are active here in Sisters Country. It blew my mind, but as we were preparing for this event, I developed a database of all the nonprofits, charitable organizations, active social clubs, places of worship that I could find in Sisters Country, and it's over 80 in a population of 3,200. That is amazing. We have such an engaged community. Chances are, if you're looking to get engaged in our town, there is a place for you or an organization for you. And if you would like to know what those organizations are, go to citizens4community.com/get-engaged, or just go to the resources tab at the top of our website, and it'll be the first thing there. There's a link that'll take you to this entire spreadsheet. We want it to be a living document. So if you know of organizations that are operating in our community that we have not yet cataloged, please tell us. We'd love to add them to that list. Okay, y'all made it through. I'm so proud of you. Last thing that I want to share is addressing this little thing on your share screen. We share these at every event. These are our ground rules, our terms of engagement, the ask or request that we have of all of you for any conversation that we are helping to facilitate or engage in. These are some best practices that you are welcome to take these cards home with you. They are just as applicable around the Thanksgiving dinner table as they are at a major C4C event. So hold on to these, but I'm going to actually read them out loud. Today, we are asking that all of you and all of us will pay attention, listen, be inclusive, not gossip, show respect, be agreeable, apologize, give constructive criticism, take responsibility, and there's also a 10 grab bag, free for all one. And I'm gonna say have fun tonight. Let's have fun. Do we agree to that? Think we can all do that? All right, let's have fun. With that, I'm now finally gonna hand the mic over to our Master of Ceremonies moderator, Scott Crabtree, C4C board member and Chief Happiness Officer at Happy Brain Science. Thanks for having us. Thanks for being here, Scott.
Yeah. Citizens for Community is nothing without community. So thanks for being the community here tonight and online. We're thinking about you too. I'm glad you could make it virtually. We are here to talk about loneliness. What exactly is it? What are the impacts of it? What are we doing about it in Sisters Country? And what else could any or all of us be doing about it? So we're going to hear from these awesome panelists. If you paid really close attention to your nugget, you may be thinking, where's the fifth panelist? The fifth panelist, Sam, unfortunately got sick and had to go home. Could not be here. So she wrote an excellent article in the Nugget that can speak to her contribution to this topic. And as mentioned, we have multiple awesome people here from St. Charles who may be able to speak if questions about St. Charles' presence and activity come up here. Before we go any further, I'm a game guy. I'd like to play a little game with you all. Thanks to my lovely wife, Sarah, we have 5 statements related to loneliness up on these pieces of paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit more information about each one. And then I'm going to ask you to find somebody in the room that you do not know and meet them and talk to them about these 5. And the game is find the truth. Of these 5, which are true? So the first one, married people can be lonely. Just let me clarify. This means you're married, the person is married and they're seeing their spouse every day or virtually every day. So this is not they're married, but their spouse is overseas for a year. This is married and having regular contact with your spouse. Second one, social rejection hurts. Taking a Tylenol makes it feel better if you've been socially rejected. Third, being lonely is as unhealthy as 6 drinks a day or 15 cigarettes a day. Let me be abundantly clear, whether that's true or not, we're not recommending drinking or smoking with others as a solution to this, but it's just maybe a fact, maybe a myth about loneliness. Another fact or myth, you decide. Studies show that on average, other people want deeper connections than we think they want. And finally, being kind makes you happy, which makes you more productive, creative, healthier, and live longer. Some of those are true. The question for you all is which are true? Again, what I'm asking you to do right now for about 2 minutes is find somebody in the room that you do not know. I promise you they won't bite. If you do, you're in the best possible place to be treated for getting bitten by a stranger. But you're not going to get bitten by a stranger. So find somebody you don't know, please talk about it for a couple of minutes. And when you hear me making noises, that means it's going to be time to wrap up and show which are true. Discuss with somebody you don't know, please, which of these 5 are true.
Actually, nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for vigorously discussing with each other. We are gonna do our best to get you talking to each other again, but for right now, we would love to pull you back into one group conversation. Okay, so we're gonna use a very fancy digital polling system to get your answers. Fingers. Get it? Digits, digital, dad, I make dad jokes. Boo. And just for doing, you got another dad joke. My friend told me I needed to stop imitating flamingos. I had to put my foot down. Okay, so the question for all of you is, which of the following here are true? And the way you're gonna show me is to put up fingers for the ones you think are true. I don't care whether you put your hand up this way or this way, but you can match these 5 in the order. So look at this way. If the first two are true, you do that. Last two are true, you do that. 1, 2, 3, show me which are true. Requires great finger dexterity, doesn't it? Here's why I love this game, because if you got them all right, great, you get to feel good for getting them all right. And if you got it all wrong, then you are learning more than those who got it all right. Everybody wins. All of these are true. 100% of these are true and based on science and data and research. Married people can be lonely. What? They have a life partner. How can they be lonely? Because loneliness, according to experts, has nothing to do with the number of people in our lives. It has to do with the quality of the connection in our lives. If you want more connection than you have, you can feel lonely. And as some of us know who've gotten divorced, you can feel lonely in a marriage. You can be in a big crowd and feel lonely. You might feel lonely here tonight, and you might be by yourself hiking Black Butte and not feel lonely at all. So it is not much to do with the number of people around you or even the number of people in your life. It is how connected do you feel to other people? That's the problem we are here to talk about. This is one of the craziest things I've learned in over a decade of brain science full time for a living. Socially rejected literally hurt. If we decided, you have to be close. If we decided Judy is not cool, let's kick off the. It would hurt her. It would activate similar brain circuits that physical pain activate in her brain. And so if you experience social rejection, I'm not invited to lunch with a colleague anymore, taking a time call actually makes you feel better because loneliness hurts. Why does loneliness hurt so much? Because we need it. This is a fundamental human need. Until very recently in human society, and even today, depending on how much technology and equipment you bring, you stand a much better chance of survival in a group than on your own. So if the panelists and I decided we were a group, if we're out there in the cold, harsh wilderness in December, we stand a much better chance together than alone. Cougar comes along, I'll defend you guys, we can share extra food. We do better as a group than we do all on our own. And so we need to connect with other people. And when we don't, it is painful to us. Loneliness is analogous to thirst. It is telling us that one of our needs is not getting met, and we need to take action to meet that need. If you're thirsty, get a glass of water. If you're lonely, show up here, show up online, reach out, talk to people, make connections, more ideas we're going to hear about from our awesome panelists. You're going to meet more in just a minute and hear from. We'll go on from there. Yes, really, we're not advising smoking or drinking, but you people are off doing either one with other people than not doing things alone. Loneliness is very bad for your health and longevity and a variety of factors. Heart disease, inflammation, the list is incredibly long. It's physical and mental health that are adversely affected by loneliness. People want deeper conversations than we think. Consistently, studies show people are kinder than we think. A greater percentage of lost wallets gets returned than we think. People want to talk to strangers more than we think. And people want real deep connection more than we think. Now, I know a few of you at least are introverts and you're like, well, for the extroverts maybe, but not for me. The data suggests both introverts and extroverts get an enormous boost in well-being through social contact. Introverts may want smaller groups, they may need more of a rest afterwards, but every single one of us that has shown up in the data gets a huge boost from social contact. And people want to talk to you. And they want to talk to you about more than the weather. We're like, oh, I shouldn't really start talking about my kids. They probably don't care. They care much more than you think. That's what the data suggests. Finally, being kind makes you happy. I am in the happiness business for those who don't know. I've been teaching the science of happiness for over a decade. And science is abundantly clear. The number one factor in your happiness and well-being is the quality of your relationships with people. If you have quality relationships in your life, you will feel happier. People who are happier, more productive, creative, resilient, successful, they make more money, they show up in the emergency room less often, they show up at work more often, they live longer, and that's not even all the benefits that come with happiness. One of the wonderful things about the science of happiness is that it's so win-win. People who are kind to strangers end up happier. People who help other people end up happier. I mentioned it, the data strongly supports that one of the best ways to feel less lonely is to do things for other people. Maybe somebody can help me if I mangle this wonderful quote that I love from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Life's most urgent question is, what are you doing for others? There's a whole bunch of people in this room doing things for others, and we have 4 of them right here doing a whole lot for other people. We could have invited a lot of people to be on this panel. Before we get to the panel, which we'll do very soon, could I ask you to please stand up, or hey, I work for you, not the other way around. If it's difficult or painful to stand up, you can raise your hand, but I'd love it if you were willing to stand up if you work on loneliness or isolation somehow in this country. It may not be in your job description, but you work for a nonprofit or you reach out to others. If you're willing, on your feet, please. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Look around. All these people would love to talk to you. My plan was if I got under 10, I'd have you all introduce yourself. I'm not 40. All those people who stood up somehow involved with an organization in the back of the room or another organization in town that's working on this. Let's get to our esteemed panelists. I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves if that's okay. There's some of you know some of these people. You have 6 minutes each. I know that's not much time. We're keeping it short so that we can get lots of audience questions and audience interaction. Thank you so much for being here. Kellen.
One note for the panelists, for the live stream, we also have closed captioning turned on for this, and the slower you speak, the better it can pick that up to help everyone online who's using closed captioning decipher it better. So would encourage everyone to speak slowly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kellen. Any important questions or comments for this moment before we give some time to the panelists? We're gonna have lots of time for audience questions and comments coming up, so please be thinking, and if you care to, writing on cards what your questions and comments are. Our awesome superintendent kicks us off, Curt. Thank you, sir.
Clarification, Scott mentioned the group ending in Cougar. I thought it was always wanted to be in groups, so we had to be faster than so you All right, welcome. So for the school district, we talk about belonging, sense of belonging for our students. Connection and relationships have long had science behind them as improving the quality of education for kids. We looked at it at the district in more of a micro. The macro is build a relationship with somebody, a kid, and they will do more for you, right? They may not do the homework if they have no relationship, but if they feel that relationship with you, there's a sense of ownership of responding and getting involved in their education in that relationship, and the quality of the feedback that they listen to from you as a teacher. A guy named Robert Marzano has written a couple books, both on the science of teaching and the art of teaching. That relationship building piece is the art of teaching, right? Developing relationships with kids. So in my article, I talked about our first work on mission vision in the district. And that was the foundation of the concept of how do we interact with our community? What's important, what are the values? It was resonated throughout everyone that it sets up a plain connection to school, what everyone was looking for. So that's been the cornerstone of what we have done really before mission vision work, especially after mission vision work. And so not only in classrooms develop relationships, but also sisters. I think now we have a list of about 450 volunteers in the school systems. We believe place-based learning, which not only develops relationships with kids, does experiential learning, connects in the community, so our kids relationships with community members. So that has been an expansion. We are fortunate enough to have a local option. And that local option focuses on small class sizes. And that's, again, a part of that belonging, relationship building, getting to know our students, being able to manage place-based learning with small groups. It is, we had an accreditation back in 2018, pre-pandemic, for the high school. And the panel of 8 administrators from around the state that visited Sisters High School were amazed at how comfortable our high school kids were talking to adults. Now that really was a compliment based on the efforts that our district has taken connecting kids, the amount of volunteers we put in, the amount of place-based learning we do. So it's that symbiotic relationship with the community where our door is open for the community, and as well we go out to the community and do work. So it really is that we've taken those concepts and tried to expand on them. I think since we've been here, entered my 9th year in Sisters. I've counselors in preschooling before. We used to have one. And we had some grants from Deschutes County that gave us some other health counseling. But we went from counselors, including mental health, before, and then additional mental health counselor as well, provided to Deschutes County, again, big regional partner. We invest in other things to understand where our kids are. We do a youth crew survey with our kids 3 through 12. Actually, this next year, because we're moving, we're going to go 5 through 12 this year, then we'll go back. So anyway, it gives our kids a chance to give us feedback on how they feel in the school, both from academic connections to social emotional, bullying and harassment. We get feedback from our kids every year on what that looks like. We've also invested in a program called Sources of Strength, which the idea of building super connectors. So it's really kind of I want to say anti-suicide program, but really it's about connecting kids. So we survey kids with who do you know in the school, and the top 20 kids whose names get chosen, we call them super connectors. And so we put them through a training on how to help connect with kids, and they have 10 staff members as mentors as well, and supervisors. And it's the idea that you build on a community's strengths, not their weaknesses, and you catch any social emotional issues upstream before you get to a different place. So both of those programs are in our middle school and our high school. Interrupted somewhat by COVID. We had some really good momentum going, and then COVID hit, and now we're kind of rebooting on some of that. Another program we have is called AVID. It's called Achieve Via Individual Determination. And it's really about building community, sense of community, compounded with support networks around academics and relational, and building on kids' strengths that way as well. So we've really invested a lot in the belief that a sense of belonging is cornerstone in supporting our kids, not only in their happiness, but also their ability to access their education. Right? If they're happy, they do all the things we talked about. They're more successful all the way around. Well, I think I'll leave it at that. Right? After 1 minute, if I go on to another topic, I may keep it.
Kurt to fumble a little bit, so I could, he didn't. So, I'm Jennifer, the Executive Director of our Citizens Park and Recreation District. Thank you, C4C, for bringing up this topic. It is a very important topic for our community, for people of all ages. So I'm really happy that Kurt's been here to talk about the school age impact that they're seeing. So at the Park and Recreation District, what we see how isolation and loneliness shows up is it's really that lack of connection, not only people, but also the community. We live in this awesome community of districts, but I'll tell you, as somebody who's moved here recently, it can be hard to break into some of these existing groups that are here. That's really on all of us to open ourselves up and to invite our neighbors to be part of our crew. And I think that's really important, especially that really went away during COVID because we were all kind of afraid to expose ourselves to anything. And now we're in a better place. So I think it's important that we go back to that approach and connect with our neighbors. It's what we see, and I also think it's important to note is this shows up differently with everybody. You know, I'm an extrovert during my workday, but I am a true introvert in the evening, and that's people can't reconcile those two things. And other people are completely opposite. And so we need to understand what people need, and that means we need to hear from folks, right? So it's important for us to understand that there isn't a blanket approach that will work for everybody. How we're seeing this isolation and the impacts of this in our community, at least in the Park and Recreation District, is we're seeing that there is beginning to be a lack of empathy for people and a lack of ability to communicate. When we put ourselves in different situations, we gain different experiences, and those experiences really allow us to expand and have that growth mindset. I think of who I was when I was 15, and if I was that same person today, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I don't think you guys would like me at all. And so just imagine if you were isolated from that point of being a middle schooler to never building those relationships and kind of that long-term impact that can be had. At the Park and Recreation District, socialization is what we do. Recreation is all about building relationships, building connections. We have a free teen center. We have a variety of programs for seniors. Our kind of big gap right now are those young adults, the 30 to 50. They're really trying to figure out how to best serve those folks. But we do have events where we bring the community together to celebrate the holidays, or to show off your car. And so those are other ways for you to invite your neighbor or some new person that you can work with to get to know other folks here in Sisters. So with that, who in this room actually has been to anything with SP parties? Show of hands. Oh, that's great. Awesome. So all the people who didn't raise their hand for homework, I want you to email me and tell me what is it you would like to see, because you're the people that we want to hear from. We want to hear from customers because you guys are amazing. We love you. But we really want to know what it is we could do to get other folks in the rooms. Please reach out to me. My email is super easy, Jennifer@citizens4Community.com. Because we want to make sure that we are part of the solution. And lastly, I'm just going to say, just kind of building on that, this is a community challenge. This isn't going to be solved by the agencies that are sitting up here. This is going to be solved by every single one of us reaching out and inviting our neighbors over, shoveling our neighbor's driveway when they need it. I have the best neighbor who I wish was here because I'd give him a shout out, who is always checking in on me, making sure that I'm okay. And we need to pay that forward. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll pass it on.
So we needed to talk.
Oh.
My name is Steve Stratos. I am one of the pastors of the Sisters Community Church. And Sisters Community Church has been around this community for a number of years. But I've been within a week, I would bet 1,000 people come to the church. The building is
still used by members of the community. There are times where I can't even get any space in the church, which is a good thing. And I think one of the things that makes the church so important is that it is for the community. How many of you are from New England?
From what?
New England. Okay, not very many of you, but since I grew up in Massachusetts, you go to New England and you will see in almost every community, the highest building in that community is a church steeple. Because for such a long time, churches were the center of most communities. Because it was their goal, their mission, so to speak, to reach into their community and make sure each and every person was having their needs met. It is interesting to me as we think about this community, the people that I've met through this. I've been here since 2016, and the members of Sisters Community are quite incredible people. When I first got there, some of the people I met were people making quilts. You have to understand something. I'm a city kid. I came from the streets. When I met people who made quilts, I went, quilts? And yet when they began to talk about how many quilts they had given away to rescue missions, to single moms, to people who were grieving, you know, I'm sure since I've been there, over 1,000 quilts have gone out. So the beauty of being a part of Sisters Community Church is that we get to be, as a part of our mission, a people who reach into our community. Because first and foremost, we see loneliness as a spiritual problem. Matter of fact, if you go back scripturally, and I'm not going to give you a sermon here, but you know, the Hebrews were the first to take history and begin to talk about it in terms of a beginning and end. History to that point was very circular. It was coming and going, and we oftentimes hear the words history repeats itself. But in the Hebrew way of thinking, history had a beginning. You go back to Genesis and it says, in the beginning, God. The reason I mention that is because alienation and isolation, loneliness is found in the first chapter. Because God creates this beautiful world, and no one knows how beautiful this world is, like the people of sisters. All we have to do is look at faithful charity in the morning and realize we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. But the reality was he created all of these things. It was good. It was good. The birds, it was good. The trees, it was good. He created the crown of creation, man. And he created Adam and he said, this is not good. And the reason he said it wasn't good was he finished that statement with saying, it is not good for man to be alone. Because when we think about what it means to be humans, humans are intrinsically, inherently built for relationships. If indeed, from the faith community, we would say that we are people made in the image of God, then we recognize that the image that we are made in is relational, Father, Son, and Spirit. So to live in isolation, I'll disagree with our happiness science, is isolation is a problem because of brokenness in our world. And it shows up in the very first chapter of the Bible. And so God said, okay, he gives Adam and Eve. He wasn't giving them a wife simply, although that was a good thing. He was giving them a companion so that in that relationship, Adam could look into the eyes of Eve and he could look into the eyes of Adam and say, oh, this is what God looks like. And so the relationship that they had together gave them a greater opportunity to experience the image that they were made in. So when I think about Sisters Community Church, that's our goal. As a mission, our desire is to first and foremost help people have a relationship with God. Sometimes people say, well, I don't know about organized religion. Well, I don't know about organized religion either. I know that we all have to get organized, and I'm not very good at that. But I know that what it is that we try to communicate is a relational connection. So the first part of our mission is to connect with God, to help people to create an opportunity to connect with God so that that relational image that they've been made in gives them a greater degree of fulfillment. And I knew I'd never do it in 5 minutes. And then our second point is to care for people. Because people are the most important gift that we've been given in life. And so Sisters Community Church does a lot of things, maybe we'll talk about that later, to actually do that. And the third part of our mission is to cultivate community, which is why I'm so grateful that in the title of our church, Sister Community Church. So again, I think there's such a great opportunity in our community to do so much for each other. And I'm proud to be a part of Sister Community Church because of the people that actually go there.
Is this?
It is. That's all. They have to put up your list.
I'm Judy Smith from,
We can't hear you.
okay.
There you go.
I'm here representing an organization in Sisters called Age Friendly Sisters Country. We are a nonprofit who is a fiscal sponsor for people who have good ideas in this city about a lot of ways to decrease isolation, improve livability in Sisters Country. You've heard already some talk from people who are also working on isolation and encouraging social interaction. In addition to the people you've heard of from already, I'd like to call out the Nugget as a vehicle, which through being published every Wednesday gives us a myriad of opportunities to connect with other people who live and work in this community. So, yeah. You know, even they have online presence, just to be able to pick up the paper and see 15, 20 things you can do this week. Great service. And speaking of that, did anybody go to the science club 2 nights ago? No? Thank you. I didn't. I self-isolated. I stayed at home because it was cold outside and this was bothering me. When I could have gone to the Belfry and put out a bunch of people who were interested in talking about things that concerned all of them. I could have had a beverage in front of me on the table. I could have met some new people that I didn't know. I could have seen people I already knew. But I decided to stay home. And that's an example of only one kind of isolation. There are other kinds of isolation in this community. The fact that we are, you know, we're classified as a rural community. A lot of us live on acreage. Some of us live in subdivisions that are a couple miles, maybe 5 miles, maybe more away from the downtown area. The roads are icy in the winter. It's not easy. You're nodding, yes. It's not easy to get. It's not easy to get out, and it gets dark early. We're looking for ideas of ways to overcome those kinds of isolation. What my organization does is to find residents who have ideas about ways to break some of the barriers and get people talking to and meeting each other. Some of us live on streets where there are empty houses. I was in my house for 5 years before I met all the people who lived on my block. It was only by going out and shoveling snow in the middle of winter did I meet most of my neighbors. So anyway, my organization is what's called a fiscal sponsor, provide the nonprofit 501c3 structure for people who have good ideas and want to see them implemented in town. A really good example of an idea that got implemented through working with my organization is the STARS Sisters Transportation and Rideshare Program. And we have Rennie Morrell here tonight, standing in the back. Rennie would love to talk to you about the advantages of her organization, both for you possibly as a passenger, but also potentially as a volunteer working with her good people. She can tell you stories about how people met each other through volunteering with this group. It's all good stuff. We, before COVID hit, we had another action team with us out in the tollgate community just to begin what we called a village. Has anyone heard the National Village Network? It's a real easy way to bring community together to encourage neighbors to help neighbors to organize social events in the summer, indoors in the winter. Love to see, and if it weren't for COVID, that group would still be, I believe, we'd love to see that revitalized on a citywide basis, but it's going to need people who have some inspiration and some, frankly, some volunteer time they'd be willing to offer to get the movement off the ground. Okay, 2 minutes. The sorts of support we could offer through our organization would be things that, as an instigator, you would probably rather not deal with. Insurance, managing the risk of your activities, background checks, if you have people working for you who are going to be driving other people around or maybe going into other people's homes. We also can help put you together with funding organizations that would give you money to defer the expenses that you're likely to incur in your good work. We can offer you tax benefits. You can receive funds without having it considered normal income. We can help you acknowledge volunteer donations. It's a business transaction, and it's also a way of encouraging good work. So if anybody has, based on what you've already heard, and if anyone comes up with a light bulb moment, and think a project, it doesn't have to be a long-term project. We start working that 4th year operation this year. It can be one and done idea too. Within this community, we really appreciate it. You come back, talk to us at the end of the presentations, or put your name and your email address down so we can reach out to you and chat further about what we can do to work on isolation centers. Thank you.
Thank you all. Awesome comments. Let's start with audience questions. And let's start. Are there any online audience questions, Kellen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. For audience questions or comments, you can fill out cards. You can walk up to that mic right now, or you can raise your hand. And here we go, Bruce. Awesome.
Don't be bashful. You won't bite. You go, come on, make comments you want to put comments on the card, whatever you like.
Okay. Questions from anybody in the room to anybody in the room, whether they're on the panel or not. Kellen.
I'll do a question.
Excellent.
Wondering, this is for all the panelists, can you talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic impacted your constituents, your organization, and how it might have exacerbated social isolation and loneliness in this community?
Well, I don't want to, actually, I started last time. I'll defer it to, if you want to go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this, as we well know, the pandemic created havoc in all of our lives. And I think one of the things that it did is it created a lot of division in our lives, how to deal with it. It was such a new unknown reality that everybody, as Americans had an opinion about how to deal with it. And it was no less true within the church. Do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? Do we have church? Do we not have church? Do we do it outside? Do we do it inside? And I think it created in itself a divisiveness that at the same time, you know, I look at these kinds of things as opportunities for growth and learning. What could we learn from how we relate to one another in a pluralistic society where you never get everybody to agree? So I think it was a real opportunity for us, once again, to communicate, not so that we could be right, but so that we could be unified in our approach, even if it wasn't always the same.
Randy, you want to shout from back to the room? Oh, Kurt.
Say something about the COVID experience. STARS started on March 1st of 2020.
Would you be willing to step up to that mic so people online can hear you better? It's all good. Thank you, Randy.
1 minute. STARS started just with COVID, and we grew. And the reason we grew in the community is because there's a need for transportation, for people to medical rights. And so the community, it's the joint team to come together to do this. It's been a community experience for us. And so it really kind of speaks to the fact that one, STARS is needed, and two, that we have been kind of raised in a culture of helpfulness, and we address isolation because we see people all the time and hear from them that if they can talk to us, our drivers, our dispatchers, but we talk to anybody else. So STARS was important in the community. Thank you.
So to address the COVID issue, I would say so I didn't say this in my introduction, I'm also a father of 4, got 3 graduates of Sisters High School, 1 junior now. From when we moved here, we had a kid in every building, actually 2 in 1, and 1 in every building when we moved into Sisters. And I think I would say, not to toot our own horn, but our district did actually a really good job because of how relational we were of caring for kids during that time. Yes, it wasn't great. There was learning loss, every other day classes, right? In that second year, the real devastation, I think, in education quarters was the first year of the pandemic when they shut school down after spring break. Right, and no connection to kids, an hour online, 45 minutes actually online was what they required. For the rest of that year, rolling into the following year, we had kids with 3 months of school left, a whole summer of really little interaction. And so to me, that was a devastating part of COVID for us. And it, our elementary school, even though reduced class sizes because we had the 6 requirement, they're in school every day, 4 days a week. Our high school went to rotating schedules, limited in-person. We used to call it affectionately LIPI, limited in-person instruction for kids. You could get small groups in the building and not violate the protocol. We held outdoor classes, did outside rallies. So again, trying to connect with that belong. What I would say on that is, yes, we still are seeing social emotional issues as well as learning loss that we haven't recovered from as a system. Not with all, I mean, we served some kids, but again, think of those restrictions. Some kids went and did their own learning pods. I mean, people were doing their best. This isn't a criticism, but they were, or at home homeschooling. And that is different than a trained educator supporting your child. So we have seen the difference in our system as we move forward. So yes, a big impact.
One of the things that we saw at the Park and Recreation District is that there is a pathway for us to do kid programming, but not to do older adult programming. And so we had to pull everything up for that age group for almost about a year and a half. And we're still rebuilding. And I specifically remember anytime I sent out a newsletter, I get emails from people that were just heartbreaking because, like, well, what are you doing for us? Or, you know, I'm stuck at home. I can't get anywhere, and we didn't have an opportunity to connect with them. And so, one of the things that we tried to do is have our staff reach out to folks and make phone calls. And our front desk person, who I spoke about in the article that Jim wrote, she's just amazing at building relationships. And sometimes she speaks on the phone for longer than I would like, but I know she's doing good work and building those connections to folks who might be isolated out in Camp Sherman or not really have any of those other connections. And so for us, that's where we saw a lot of that is the older adults and still trying to build back from that.
Jim mentioned telephone calls, and I'd like to talk just for a second about the power of the telephone. I think we started to rely a lot more on telephonic relationships and communication during COVID. I know that I remember while working with the STARS program, we made excuses to call passengers because we knew how important it was for them to hear from us, whether they were getting a ride or not. I also, in my personal life, have initiated some weekly phone calls with people that we've continued way beyond. the end of COVID, just because it's a great habit. That's all. Wanna speak up for phones.
Hello, you beautiful people. My name is Steven Saunders, and I just have a really quick question. I heard one of you mention that you guys were newish to the community, and I can relate to that. I want to ask how we can address issues related to that. So as someone who is newish to the community, what is the best way to plug in and find your tribe in town? And how can we make that better?
Can I jump in before the panelists answer? Because I heard one of you talking about being new. I think it's you, Jennifer. There was vigorous head nodding out here. So I would like you to do me a favor and raise your hand if you've been in Sisters your entire life, from the day you were born. Anyone been here since the day when they were born? How about 40 years or more? Long timers, thank you so much. 30 years or more? 20 years or more? 10 years or more? 5 years or fewer, hands up. Hands up. When you first moved to town, you found it challenging to make real connections with other people. So, I mean, I felt this too, even though I was married and have wonderful kids. One of the ways I dealt with it was volunteering to be on the board of Citizens4Community. So that's one great thing we can do. But I love the question, and I'd love to hear from all of you and anyone else who wants to chime in. What are ways we can make it easier to be less lonely when you're new to town?
Keyword is volunteering.
A key word is volunteering for those who couldn't hear it. Yes.
I would say one of the things we encourage kids, families is to get involved, not just inside the school day, but in the other kind of activities that are happening. It was one of the reasons, again, I stopped at one point, but the district also, we no longer charge for co-curricular activities because we thought that was a barrier to kids getting involved. We've seen our participation rates go up across the board. That's music, that's athletics, that's across the board co-curriculars. We are keeping a strong effort trying not to charge, but those costs are going up because I think right now our last data, we were between 70–80% of our kids tap into co-curriculars. The big obstacle was we're seeing a huge boom at the middle school, eliminating, it was just a $75 fee for participation, and eliminating that, we have more kids than ever out for co-curriculars. So the advice to anybody who is get involved in something, say yes to an invitation, right? That's critical to build those connections. And if stuff for us, for kids, they can do over the summer, people move. So at odd time, people who I say move at the end of the school week so you can connect with kids before summer. Because you're keeping off all summer with no friends in the community you connect with is problematic. But then if you do move in the summer, get into that part of that camp, get into camp, something that connects your kid with other kids so they have relationships in school. So sorry.
There's truth of the matter is there's a scene for water, and Affleck says that he's fine. There's nothing like the heart of a volunteer. And I think, the fact that many of you here are probably retired. I know there are many in our church who are retired. And I know that the message of the gospel is be a servant. And so being able to get involved and volunteer is a part of how all of us grow into being better human beings and from our perspective more Christ-like. So I love it when I met Curt the first time and I said, Jim Gurney. Jim Gurney has lived here about 25 years, and Jim been everything from pastor, football coach to, but his heart is for people. And it's a business stream is where he tries to hire people that can't get jobs and can't find places to live and pay for them to stay places, et cetera. I think we're cheating a little bit from the church perspective, but that's the message of the gospel. Get involved, serve one another, and discover in the process a human being you can become. And so that's just a great opportunity for us. We're glad we get to be in the community.
Yeah, but you can go.
Hold on one second. Wait, response first, please.
Hi, I'm Judy. I've been here in Citizens for about 16 years now. I just want to mention that when we moved here, it was a little difficult to get involved and we did the volunteering thing, but one thing that just kept hitting us over the head and forgive me, I'm not pointing at Kurt, well, I am pointing at Kurt, but we had kids in the school system and one thing that kind of just drove us crazy is that every message that came out said something like, hey, just like last year, we're gonna do X, and then they wouldn't explain what happened last year. So from a organizational standpoint, trying to keep in mind that not everybody remembers what we did last year, and so if you're talking about what we did last year, kind of explain it. Thank you.
You, new question, please.
So, in our planning meetings, we were really good at this, and we kind of like discussed it all tonight. About seniors, talk about youth. But one of the groups that have the most trouble with isolation and connecting and being friends is men in their 30s and 40s. Is anybody working on that? What do you guys see specifically in that arena? Is anybody working on it? Is it something that's specific to that clutter of people that we could do further with, sister?
I speak.
I'm Edie Jones, and I have been involved with a program called Together for Children. It is a program that works with families from birth through 3 years old, so up to when they go to school or go to preschool. And what it does is bring that very isolated group of young, not always young parents, but parents of young children who may not know another person in that same, with a child in that same group. It brings them together. So I am really hoping that other children's on the list we heard about earlier, I'm pretty sure that it will be. And if you want to know more about that program, please touch me. It may not be the right age to have a toddler or a little person, but you may know somebody and they need to be connected together. So, and you also hear in sisters together, children with parks.
So I think that building off what Bill was saying, it's an interesting transition as you go from being a parent of a kid who does a lot of activities to a high schooler who could care less about those activities, and now you don't have a social network because you're not running around with your kid doing baseball and all that stuff. So I appreciate Jim bringing that because that is an age group that is left behind, and I think everybody thinks that because it's a working population, they have great relationships at work, it's not a big of a deal. That's far from the truth. And so we have a lot of volunteer opportunities to get engaged with our specialty parks. So we have a bike park, a skate park, and a disc golf park that really is made possible by the love and labor of folks in our community. It's a great way to get connected with Coda, who does a lot of work with our bike park. I also would say that I think STA does a really great job with connecting to that population, that age group. I know they're working really hard at expanding who they're attracting and trying to start younger and have trail stewards all the way up. And so we don't have the answer, but we'd be happy to hear solutions and partner with people in the future to help serve that population.
Real quick, before we go to a new question, I read an interview with a scientist expert, happiness expert, happiness scientist. At the end of the interview, they said, if you just had to boil all the advice down to one thing for people to be happier, what would it be? And they said, get exercise outdoor with people you enjoy. So that is playing on a softball team, which I did in my first year here through SBRD. And it's some of the other ways we've heard about getting involved, going on a hike with STA, or anyway, get outside with other people, get some exercise, and you'll be happier according to the data. New question, please, or comment.
Actually, yeah, as one of the very few people within that age bracket in the room, I wanted to speak to it a little bit. You know, obviously it's something that was exacerbated by the pandemic, that having young children can be an incredibly isolating time of life.
but it's also so interconnected to a lot of systemic challenges within our society. One that comes to mind immediately for me, and the experience with trying to post events, this is childhood. When it takes a village to raise a child, when you have no one else you can depend on, whether it's babysitter or consistent childcare availability, in order to be able to go out and foster your own social connections, it is really challenging. But when we think about bringing adults, young men, young women into the fold, get them more engaged in their community, we also need to think about the system and provide a child to those people actually have the capacity to do that. I think on a more simplistic logistical standpoint, there's little tweaks that can also be considered to create that interactive. One thing is thinking about the timing of the events. I'm not sure I've this yet, but I think when I look around this room, like raise your hand if you're under 50. Okay, like the vast minority of, is that's a. Part of that is probably because we're holding this event during dinner time for young families, and that is tricky. You know, people have full-time jobs. People need childcare. There's not a perfect time, but thinking about how we can tweak different events, social gatherings, etc., to target the populations that might be most vulnerable is really important as well. And it might just be some slight logistical tweaks. I'll let you know if I figure it out. Okay, now pivoting, and I'm speaking on behalf of Stephanie Sarles, who's online. Stephanie actually helps run an organization on the Oregon coast that does comparable community building. And she's asking, I wonder if you have any programs and systems that help link different generations. A large retired population and it's often disconnect between children and young families and our senior adults. Do you find it to be true in sisters? Have you figured out any good strategies to build connection? Seven, I love this discussion.
I feel like I'm cheating when I answer some questions because we have such a multi-generational church that given, let's say Sunday morning, you can have 100 little kids, and we have grandparents that are supposed to watch them. Or again, when Jim is the question, we did this couple of dads, dudes, and moments where we get the younger kids with their friends and dads and bring the speaker, and it's a fun morning where you have this multi-generational group of people. And so I here again where I feel like the church can play an integral role in the community because it's already has multiple families. I mean, it's just an opportunity, and it makes me think here that we need to do a better job as a church communicating some of these things in the community to invite the community in. I don't know how many people we feed during the week, but you get people who don't go to our church who come, and we get an opportunity just to love on them and sit with them. So having a multi-generational church, it feels like it's a great opportunity to do more in that context. So thanks whoever raised that question, Jim.
And we have a wonderful educator to add to this question.
Hi there, Amy. I have the pleasure of teaching you for the last 23 years within Beaverton School District, Redmond School District, and this year Sister School District. And I see the wonderful things that our Sister School District is doing. Appreciate what Scholl was talking about. When I came up with the idea for a club for 5th and 6th graders at Sisters Middle School to be connected, some of our seniors at the lodge, and sisters, Principal Tim Rock was all for it. I drove myself over to the lodge, introduced myself unannounced, and the director over there was thrilled at the idea of connecting our youth, that generation. Can experience a lot of loneliness. So I just appreciate the fact that Sister School District is doing something about this. And if I can share just some really quick research, intergenerational relationships have been linked to improve health and well-being for both the younger and older individuals. For older adults, engaging with younger generations can promote a sense of purpose and motivation, reduce feelings of depression and anxiety, and enhance cognitive function. For children and younger adults, intergenerational connections can provide a sense of belongings, emotional stability, and a positive outlook on life. For many of our youth, school is the only positive place in their world. They're experiencing trauma at home, and so I appreciate Sister School District being open to this idea we are looking for funding because I love to do crafts and bring the children to the lodge, several times a month with your set it up and ask the children which of these different, options for clubs and many options. An overwhelming response for kids 10, 11, and 12 years old that want to join me, and we're called the Sunshine Club, and meet with on a weekly, monthly basis some of our older population here in Sisters. And so there is a strong desire by our youth, and we can't wait to get it started here in the next couple of weeks. So thank you.
Please.
Tim Neff, I want to commend everybody who had something to do with this. I think it's a wonderful idea and it's certainly needed. As I thought about this, though, I began thinking about the concept of loneliness, realized has some negative connotations, excuse me, particularly for men. And I would invite us to think about some more positive ideas going forward instead of loneliness, or to come forward and with those concepts on top of loneliness. Thank you. That's what originated C4C board members.
I'll just pick another opportunity. Kate's been on the mentor program. So one of our partners, Circle of Friends, they provide mentorship, one mentorship at risk youth at our schools. And I can tell you it makes a difference, those relationships with kids that have one more adult in their life that they know cares about them is going to help them out. It impacts their ability to come to school and access their education. So if you have interest, the program coordinator is named Kelly Scholl. There is a relationship. So you can contact her at Circle of Friends, but it's another way to get involved.
Before the next question, if I may, there's a bit of a vicious circle around loneliness, and Ken, you touched on it. You can get ostracized for being alone, right? These are nice social people. Let's invite them to dinner. These are nice. Oh, that person never seems to be talking to anybody. Let's leave them out of it. That's a vicious circle. The people who need your connection the most, maybe sometimes the ones you're least likely to invite. So I'm asking us all to overcome that. There's another way that loneliness is a vicious circle. The research suggests that the lonelier you are, the more hyper-vigilant you become for social risks. What does that mean if you're not as nerdy as I am? What it means is that if you're lonely, you start to look out at the world and think, oh, they're going to be mean. They're not going to like me. That person's trying to steal my walk, but that person's going to hate me as soon as I start talking. Those thoughts start swirling in your brain the more you are alone. So this becomes a vicious cycle. And what we need, we're going to very quickly, before we run out of time, heads up everybody, especially on the panel. And what's one thing anyone here could do to make a difference in this in this country? One of the things we can do is kind of assume the most of other people. They're probably not nearly as friendly as you think. What's not going to need if you think research suggests. Sir, please.
I'm Grant. I just have to go on one for the 30 to 40 males. And one thing Sisters is doing for that is the disc golf course that's in town. It hits that demographic. You see those guys out there. It costs almost no money to go play. And there's always groups out there, and people are super friendly and let you jump in with them. So for that age group, it is a great social tool that you may not be aware of that Sisters County is providing. And it's also the best disc golf course in the area. So. It really is. And then my other comment is, one of the most isolated groups that are around us are the homeless in the community, right? So when you're homeless and you're out and looking different, sitting on the sidewalk, you become incredibly isolated. People don't look at you when you walk past. Well, smart about you, try to avoid talking to you. So one way you can increase socialness in the midst is to say hi to people and take that risk. Put yourself out there and some kind of kids, the name of the dog is. It's a great thing and show that they're not completely alone.
Here.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, and I have have a neighbor who's a big social community guy, and I was wondering if my friend Steve Marsan would like to talk tonight about your community building.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
No pressure.
Thank you, Dave. That's really kind. It's a lot more, the word that I heard was empathy from, I think, Jen. And that resonates with me, and also the word acceptance resonates. So, another gentleman mentioned a homeless person. Sorry, Jane, but a lot of those people come to my house or, and park there and hang out, maybe come from a different income level or whatever. Won't care that they're human beings, So, that's all I do. It's just a human being, so we're all human beings. And, my part is just, this is gonna cost a lot, but every Thursday I pizza at the bar. And people are gonna love it, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes maybe, Jack pulling myself over, you've been here 40 years, you'll know. But it's a table, we sit down, want to know who you voted for, please, it's more about just sitting around listening really to each other, not about that other stuff and minutia, really what you have to say, what's important to you, maybe even some grievances every now and then, but it's coming from a real caring kind of perspective. So we do this every Thursday, and we just eat pizza together, hang out, and listen to one another, no agenda whatsoever. And then we also, I got a rock band also that I started, so everyone's invited to be in the rock band. So that's the little things that I do, but it's just being part. I love this community so much. I love being part of it, and that's just a small little thing, but I just, I think I've been given more, so it's incumbent that I give more. That's kind of my perspective. Is that not?
Yeah, thanks again. I wanted to call out a few things, that I've heard and maybe some that I've not heard tonight. One thing I wanted to point out is just, there's probably a little bit of preaching to the converted going on here in the room tonight. The people that most need to hear the messages that we're talking about are the ones that are not here. And so I would just encourage all of us in the room to think about those within our social circles that might be more socially isolated, and what we can do to bring them into the fold, whether it's inviting them to join us for events like this, whether it's picking up the phone and calling them, whether it's some of the other things that I'm sure we'll articulate here in a moment. Well, let's be mindful of those who are oftentimes not in the room and more underrepresented in these social gatherings. The other thing I wanted to acknowledge is there's probably an elephant in the room that we haven't talked about a lot tonight that has had an impact on social isolation and a lot of other oftentimes negative consequences in our society, and that's social media. That doesn't go unnoticed for me, and I'm going to be looking for opportunities for C4C to facilitate future conversations about the role of social media in our community, our personal lives, and how we can hopefully use it in a responsible and healthy way for all of us for combating social isolation. So I just wanted to those two. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me just chime in. The research is abundantly clear. Social media have both positive and negative effects, but overwhelmingly it's negative. So I'm social media. I'm not going to tell you about social media. I'm trying to tell you face to face with people, kind of eye contact. That's how we really start breaking down loneliness. Other brief questions or comments before we turn to final thoughts, what we can all do. Going once. Twice. I'd like all the panelists, and we probably have time for a few other people from the audience to go up to that mic. Brief comments. We're about to wrap up. What's one thing people in this room can do to help combat loneliness in the community, please?
I would challenge everybody here who goes to a social event or standing in line at Weimart or at Belfry or at Folk Festival. Find somebody who's not with your groups, someone who's standing by themselves, and find a way without scaring them to go up, introduce yourself, find out their name, and just make them feel included. That's all.
Wonderful. Let's go down the line of the panel if you don't mind.
Scott has talked a lot about, you know, maybe the Harvard School of Happiness, but whatever that might be. And it's just interesting. I read this article that came out in 2016, which said religion can be in agriculture. The piece begins as if one could see a single lecture to improve the physical and mental health of millions of Americans at no personal cost, the value would society place. The author wanted to outline the mental and physical health benefit that correlated with being involved with the church. For most Americans, going to church, even the extent of reducing mortality rates 20 to 30% over a 15-year period. Research exists. Those who regularly attend services are more optimistic, have low rates of depression, are less likely to commit suicide, for greater purpose of life, are less likely to divorce, are more in control of their life. Sounds like a selfish proposal, but I just want to say that it's about community and about having within the context of the community a greater purpose in life that you have together with people. And church sort of provides that opportunity, multi-generational, and gives you some answers. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm gonna say twofolded. First, if you're one of those super sociable people, invite somebody new to your tribe. Is something I heard, you know, that's really essential. And then on the other side, if you're a little bit more on the shy side, like I am, you need to be curious, yes, because it's important when those invitations come, they sometimes can be fleeting. And so jump on the opportunity and start building those connections.
Excellent. Curt.
I think, as I reflect on it, I not necessarily physical actions, I'd probably pull something out of your playbook. Yeah, start the day with gratitude. The science around how that impacts your brain and what that gives you the energy to do, to Pastor's point. When you have gratitude, you typically have hope and joy in your life as well. And those are big deals, and spreading that message to the folks that are feeling isolated, right? That simple that simple behavior of getting up, okay, what am I grateful for today? And that's the way you start your day. It does change your brain chemistry and gives you a different perspective.
Absolutely. Anyone in the audience, including those online, want to share any final comments before I do? We got several. How about we get to the mic and we'll keep these really short. We have 3 total minutes left in this program. You all can have 2 of them. I want one at the end. Please go.
I'm back for seconds. I just want to say this is amazing. That we're having this conversation is a testament to the quality of our community. We're actively working on the fabric of our society, asking these questions. I just want to also, I know that I have felt isolated at times, and I want to just reflecting on that, acknowledge that sometimes it's about not trying to bring your baggage to a community, like persons struggle with mental health issues, and those services people don't want to be around the people because they don't want to chance whatever they're doing. So just want to raise that as well as something to be thinking about, because maybe you want to go, just don't feel like you should.
Yeah, next, please.
My name is Betty McCune, and I am a community educator with the Alzheimer's Association. And I just want to share this for perspective. Take it as a carrot, take it as a stick. It's up to you, it's attitude, right? There are 4 things we know that can prevent and minimize the progression of dementia or Alzheimer's once you've been diagnosed with it. Social engagement. Social engagement is one of the top 4 things we can do. That's why this conversation in this community is so important, because, and the question about COVID and isolation, 17% increase in those diagnosed with dementia post-COVID.
Like, I've been a long concur, but there's nothing like gratitude. You don't need anybody else. I do it every day, short period of time, and it's magic. Can't even explain it. And I just want to second that.
So I will third the emphasis on gratitude and other happiness interventions we can do. There's a wonderful virtuous circle, that's the opposite of a vicious circle. Gratitude makes us happy. When we are happier, we have a broader circle of us. Unfortunately, it is a scientifically documented fact, and nerds who want sources, please come talk to me afterwards. I've got all the studies and scientist names that you want. The happier you are, the broader your circle of us. Unfortunately, human beings are wired to very quickly decide if somebody is one of us or one of them. And if you're unhappy, you see more people as one of them. And that's when you don't talk to that person because they look different. So there's a virtuous circle here. Gratitude, social connection are two of the best things to make you happier. When you're happier, you see more of us out there, and you're more willing to connect with those people. Barbara Fredrickson is one of my favorite scientists in the world. She's a leading expert on the science of happiness. She has a book called Love 2.0. She says most of us think of love as me pronouncing my undying love to my wife for our vows, but she says there's another kind of love. And it's moment to moment human connection with other people, and you don't have to know this person. So I haven't met you before, we're making contact right now. I can look at your facial expression. And I think, oh, we have a little emotional synchronicity going on right now. That, according to Barbara Fredrickson, is love 2.0. And I can tell you from lonely people, the lonely person that I've been in my life, and lonely people I know, those moments of connection with other people can make all the difference in how you move and happiness and faith and health goes. So I'll end with gratitude. Thank you so much, Bruce, Jim, and C4C for organizing this and putting it on. Nugget for being such a wonderful partner and sponsor everything here to show up. Let's all be brave, be kind, and make a positive difference in each other's lives. Kellen.
A reminder that our friends at the back are going to be continuing to hang around here for the next half hour. If you're looking to get engaged, now that we've told you that you have to, we can talk to them. And if none of these folks back here are just hitting the spot for you, please again, go to our resources page and learn about other organizations in town.
Connect with somebody new on your way out tonight. You're welcome to stay here and talk with others. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.